Hello and welcome to the Movie Moolah Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Yenny, and with us today is Jesus Sifuentes, who is a all-around producer out of Texas, and he's one of the many serious people we have on this podcast to talk about serious issues in a sometimes silly way. Jesus, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. I really appreciate the invitation, and can't wait to talk shop. See what we can conjure up, dude.
Cool. So, just to give our viewers and or listeners, because this is going to do both, a little bit of an idea about your track record and background, because I do at least a decent amount of vetting on my guests. What is it that you focus on as a producer in Texas?
My day job is still a line producer, and the line producer is the one that's responsible for doing the budget, the shooting schedule, payroll, production insurance, and managing the production once it gets financed, right? And to date, I probably managed over $5 million in combination with all the productions I've ever worked with as a line producer. And but my obsession is distribution. And I got into distribution by accident, man. Actually, out of necessity, because we didn't have those resources and we had no clue. Like, okay, we finished the film, now what, right? So that's been my obsession, I would say, for the last 10 years, and just trying to. It's not necessarily the formula. I mean, there's really no. I guess there's some form of a formula as far as like covering your bases to make sure that you're in a position where your film can actually make some money, right? And also to go back to being a line producer, I specifically focus on what SAG considers an independent film, which is under $2 million. And
Mhm.
under those $2 million, there's three brackets that the budget range. There's a ultra low budget, which is from like 75K up to 300K. Then there's a modified budget, which is 300K to 700K. And then we have the low budget agreement, which is 700K all the way up to 2 million. It used to be three back in the day, but they made modifications. So that's what I specialize in, right? Now, granted, the biggest film production I did line produce was 3.5 million. That was prior to this new modification that they did. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like one of the things that at least I've worked with as an executive producer is uh working with line producers to keep the cost under
Sure.
3.5 at the time, specifically to avoid step ups in actor fees, because once you get
Exactly.
beyond
Mhm.
350, isn't it like what's the day rate for standard SAG these days?
Uh, for under 300K, it's 216. For 300K to 700K, it's 351, and then from 700K to 2 million, I think it's 636 or something like that. But what I can do, I'll just send you
Mhm.
that rate sheet that
Yeah,
includes
that's
the
great.
budget range,
I'll
just in case
put it somewhere.
I misspoke
Yeah,
a number here or there.
I'll probably just
Yeah,
link
so
that
it's very
in the show
important
notes.
because yeah, yeah, because it's and when it always happens, man, when the screenwriter or producer sends me a script, they got like 30 speaking roles. Like, bro, you need to you need to cut that down, bro, because it's gonna hurt your budget, bro, because you gotta pay every well, it depends on the agreement, right?
Yeah.
Under 300K, you can mix and match, but part of SAG's clause is that even if you hire a non-union actor, you have to pay him the same rate as a union actor. So that's the rule, right? And then in the mid tier and then the higher tier, they all have to be SAG actors, right? But with a modified, day rate.
There's some allowance for you can still Taft Hartley people, can't you? For the modified and
Yeah,
low?
yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know if SAG rejects
Mhm.
that actor, you have to pay a $500 fee. So
Ugh, well,
I
at
don't know
least
where
it's
that
only
came
five
from,
hundred
but
dollars.
yeah. So yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah. Specifically, if you no more than three people, right? You shouldn't have people don't have experience, but you see something, right? I get it, because as a filmmaker, there might be somebody who just came out of the theater or just has that freaking vibe to want for that film, but they don't have any the TAF application, and they're gonna, for the most part, every time I've heard of other colleagues, they approve it. It's very rare. I actually don't think one time that there's been a time where somebody SAG said no.
Yeah, I found SAG to be mostly good to deal with. Actually, I've done a decent amount of,
SAG's super good.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
Super
have,
easy. So is DGA.
yeah, the DGA was great, and apparently, actually, I can't tell that
Super
story.
easy.
But I've actually, most distributors don't actually do your residuals for you. They put them on you.
I know. That's something.
I've done some residuals for my clients. And most of the time when I deal with the DGA on that, they're just happy that I'm talking to them, much less saying where and actually giving them accurate information and saying, no, here's who you need to go to get that bit. And
yeah, that's the owner. That's the IP owner. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even though I'm a producer, I am very pro union. A lot of us aren't, but I am. And that's why I do the best to support all of our union brothers and sisters. And I am really curious what's going to happen with the writer's strike right now, but I'm not well informed on that to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm already reading some stuff from the trades, man. I think SAG's going to do it already. Probably as soon as this week, they're going to join the strike. SAG. So that's going to put a lot of holds, even on independent films.
Oh yeah.
Because let's be honest, right? Like, any personally, bro, like, doing the budgets, talking to the union, knowing all the union rates. I personally think for the most part, right? Like, talking between colleagues, IATSE and Teamsters, if your film's under $1 million, they kind of know that you can't afford them. But it is customary to at least talk to them, right? Like, hey, man, this is my top sheet. Based on the numbers, dude, there's no way that we can afford to work with you guys. But it's usually a combination of just SAG and DGA. Like if your film's under $1 million, but if you go to a state that's very healthy, bro, they're gonna jump you. It's happening.
Oh yeah.
Like they're coming knocking on your door, like, hey, we need to flip the show, right? We need to flip it.
Yeah, no, I mean,
depends on the state as well.
It's always best to let them know when you're playing in their backyard.
Exactly.
Basically, it's more one of those ounce of prevention solves for a pound of problems. Basically, it's
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now also, I just realized now, not everybody listening might know what a Taft-Hartley agreement is. It's basically a agreement that allows a non-union SAG actor to work on a union set. It has to do with a lot of legal background that I don't want to go into, mainly because I'm not a lawyer. But it's kind of shorthand for that in the industry for those who don't know. And feel free to correct me if I was wrong on that, because you probably do a lot more.
Yeah, it really comes down to the director and the producer. Like, we want this actor, and we're gonna cut the middleman, so to speak, because you tech credits, background, or whatever, and then you can join SAG. But you're bypassing that because you believe in this person so much that you make your case with SAG. And like I said, I personally I can't even remember one time that I heard that somebody that's like said no. So it's
I'm not.
I guess they trust as long as the rest of yeah.
I mean, the other thing is SAG wants to grow its membership, and
exactly.
you do need those
they're
credits,
smart, bro.
Yeah. It's just
because when
you do need those
when you're
SAG.
submitting the because when you're submitting the SAG paperwork and you have non-union actors, you're supposed to put their contact info, and guess who's going to give them a call to encourage them to join the union? Yeah, so they're smart.
It's actually sometimes it ends up cheaper to pay their first year union dues than it does to deal with the Taft-Hartley paperwork and all the legal. At least that's what I've heard. I think that really only applies when you're like above 5 million though. The
Probably,
yeah,
yeah, very likely, yeah.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about tax incentives, like we were on the pre-roll of this. So tax incentives are a ever fluctuating thing. So if you're listening to this more than a year after this comes out, this could be totally wrong information. But where are and this conversation I think is going to end up a lot more focused on the US for tax incentives. Internationally in the
Sure.
EU for tax incentives, if you're really smart about using the system, you can get up to like 80% of your budget covered between doing it across like 4 countries.
Yeah,
And you can actually stack that,
that's
which
something I need
is
to really focus on that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
very
that
powerful, man. I haven't had the opportunity, but it's in my bucket list.
yeah, I mean it's just and that's also why a lot of European films are less commercial than US films because they don't have as much to worry about in terms of getting their investors their money back.
Exactly. Hmm.
And that's both good and bad. It does allow a lot more creative freedom to the crew, but in less restriction to standard genre pictures and cast. But there is also some level of less proliferation around it because they don't need to focus on making something that will actually be able to sell internationally. So it's a double-edged sword, but I kind of prefer their system, but I do think that there is wisdom in both ways of doing things. The but speaking of the US, I'm in Pennsylvania these days. Pennsylvania doesn't have much of a tax incentive at all,
Sure.
really. But New Jersey, just across the river, does. And I might be wrong on this because it's been a minute since I checked, but last I knew they were 43% at the cap, and you had to meet that was once you factored for all of the additional crew restrictions, um shooting outside of major areas, and
Mhm.
I forget all of them, but it was kind of hard to get to that 43%. But the biggest thing that New Jersey allowed was that as long as you use a local payroll company, you can pay out of
Exactly.
state actors up to, last I checked, $500,000. Is that about right?
That's about right. But one
Mhm.
of the things that I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
excuse me, actually, that we were discussing pre-show was one of the things that I personally promote in Jersey, Massachusetts, even Tennessee. And the key thing as a film producer, you have to keep in mind that not all states allow for people who are not from that state to be included in the tax incentive because most likely your director is not going to be from that state. Some
Mhm.
of your key producers are not going to be from that state. Your screenwriter is not going to be from that state. And obviously your actors, right? And it's I wouldn't say it's misleading. You just got to do your research, right? Like make sure, and it's actually better to get it on the phone, and they're going to send a link with all the details and stuff like that. So one of the reasons that I really enjoy New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Tennessee is because they allow out of state above the line, which is a huge cost in
Mhm.
your total budget, man. You know, sometimes up to a third of your budget is going to be above the line, and if you're not benefiting from that incentive because your actors are from outside of the state, your director, which is your producers, your screenwriters, those are guys that are going to get they're getting like a salary, right? Not scale, like for your crew and stuff like that. And it's a huge disadvantage because I know people really love New Mexico, but they don't include above the state,
Mhm.
excuse me, above the line out of state, which is and another key thing that I very, very important that I need to mention is that everybody uses Georgia, but Georgia has so much work. I'm talking about Marvel, Netflix,
Mhm.
you're not going to go in there with your $2 million, budget thinking that you are swinging, swinging the crew, so to speak. They got options, bro. And I've spoken to other filmmakers that if they find it very hard to crew up, and crew up means that you're gonna get a local producer or UPM if it's all SAG, and they're gonna the key crew that they typically hire, your gaffer, your camera ops, your sound people. Those are a good line producer has those personal relationships because we're the ones that are hiring them, right? Like we're the
Oh
ones
yeah.
that hook them up with jobs and stuff like that. And if your film is I think I spoke with a colleague a while back. Like the unions are not even going to look at your film if it's under 2 million, because these cats are working on like these blockbuster films, man.
Yeah.
So it can be a little challenging to crew up. And so you just gotta do a little bit of research, right? Oh, what's that website? I guarantee you know it, but it tells you all the stats as far as like what percentage per state, whether the it starts with a K. I'll look for it and then I'll send it so you can include it in the production notes. But it gives
Yeah.
you a really, and also Entertainment Partners. Entertainment Partners also has a version of that website that tells you the incentives by state. What are the key regulations, to take advantage of that? And then you just, you know, you start calculating that into your budget, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if it's like Tennessee is 25% across the board, which is really phenomenal, bro. So if you
Hmm.
got like a film under $1 million, dude, you're gonna get a nice, chunk back. And
Wait,
there's
there's no
not a lot of
minimum threshold on the Tennessee?
I think it's I think it's under 100K or even 50K, dude. So that's freaking awesome,
That's
bro.
like
Like if your
nothing.
film is
Okay,
like a
yeah.
hundred, that's- and it's not union. Um, as far as I know, because the biggest city that they have is Nashville, right? It's definitely big in music, so
Yeah.
I think there's a union stage like stage hands for concerts
That's
and stuff like
IATSE as
that.
well, but it's
Uh,
actually normally the same union that does
yeah,
film.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. Neither of the locations, which I found very interesting. I guess something must have happened a few years ago, but locations is not part of IATSE, depending on the state. Because I spoke with Chicago, I spoke with a couple of cats from Chicago a few weeks ago. So you just got to be okay. I've had two clients, both shot films at 300K. They said that Tennessee there was hardly any red tape. The flip was really fast, like probably under
Mhm.
6 months, and it was easy peasy. Like really, really certain states like I know New York is really notorious
Oh yeah.
for dishing out that incentive back to production, and go where it's easy, especially like depending on your budget range, right? Like 300K to 700K. Go to states where you're not gonna have because you're gonna need that. Well, it depends on what's your business plan or what kind of
Mhm.
agreement you made with your investors. Does it go back into production where we can use that money for marketing, publicity, promotion, or that goes back to the investor? It just depends on what the entertainment attorney made in
Mhm.
the agreement, right? And they both have a little bit of pros and cons. Me personally, I would love to have it go back directly to investors to begin with, right? And let's be honest, at 300K, you're not gonna have a lot for marketing. Maybe a publicist to do a little bit of get you in a couple of spots, get a little bit of noise. Because on smaller films, it's not necessarily the audience that you're trying to attract. You're trying to attract the buyers. And if you're smart, like that only industry professionals read the Hollywood Reporter,
Mhm.
Variety, Deadline. It's people like yourself, executive producers, distribution companies, and if you get in the trades, like, hey, well, they're gonna have their assistant leg look up this guy, see if they got a deal with somebody,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're gonna look up your trailer. Um, uh,
Making
I
it
know for
yeah.
100% that. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, making it easy to be found from the trades and find the basic information and get in touch with you is generally extremely wise. I've gotten a lot of distribution inquiries on a film I'm working on right now that
Absolutely.
I'm listed as executive producer because I am. called Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox, and frankly, a lot of them are reaching out solely because of
Nice.
cast.
Nice.
But
Very awesome.
yeah. I mean, that film has, this has all been in the trades and on IMDb, so I can say it, but that film has like Felicia Day, uh Danny Trejo, Joel McHale, and Keith David in it. And that's a good set of
That's awesome, bro.
gets
That's
for this
awesome. Congrats,
budget.
dude. That's
But
really cool.
which actually brings me to another point.
Yeah.
How important do you, as a line producer, but you were also interested in distribution at least, how have you found dealing with cast and attaching cast? Because I think we're beyond the point at this
Cass
conversation.
is not as
Yeah.
yeah. Cass is not as complicated as people think. They think that people have an obscene rate when it's you'll be surprised if you can offer somebody between 5 to 10K a day, they're gonna buy. And this is a huge difference, right? There's a difference between a name and a face. I know that actor, but I don't remember his name, but I'll watch it because I've seen him in a bunch of cool stuff. So there's a difference between a name and a face. On films under $1 million, you're gonna get faces, right? Like you're gonna get, really well respected actors who have like huge amount of work, even fan bases and stuff like that. And people want to work, and I always felt like if the producer has distribution experience, like they have a minimum of at least 3 films that hit the market, the agent and the manager they're gonna trust you more. Because like, okay, this is not gonna be lost in some bin and it's never gonna see the light of day. We're talking to experienced producers who have a track record of getting the films in the market, right? So they'll play ball, man. You just got to give them a number that your budget can afford, right? Like even at a discuss SAG has a clause called Schedule F. That means that you can offer any actor, prominent actor preferably, $65,000 to be in your film. It could be for one day or it could be for like the whole show. Even at 700K as a line producer, it's a little challenging because you still got to, you still got to go down your line, right? You still got, your crew, you got posts, you got deliverables, you got your other talent. But if it's worth the sacrifice, then take it, man. Like, you gotta, if you're raising money at that level independently, just 100% equity, it's worth the risk, but everybody in your crew has to play ball with that, with some modifications, right? Because we're not doing, most likely if you're under $1 million, you're not going to do a Yahtzee anyway. And me as a small business owner, as a line producer, what I prefer to do, like my DP friend, right? He owns a 3-ton grip and lighting truck. He has 2 4K cameras. He has prime lenses. And I just go up to him and go, "Hey, oh, Daniel, this is my budget. Give me a fair day rate where you feel like you're going to get paid." Because I can't afford to pay him per item, right? Like, give me a package deal. And that's the way that, because we're small business, bro. We can't play at that level where, we're paying a premium for your lenses or your camera package. Like, give us a good deal where that you're going to make a little bit of cash. We're going to be shooting for 21 to 25 days or less. And come play ball with us, and then try to give a fair rate for your second and first key positions, and then you just play ball, right? You get on set and you just shoot.
Yeah, no, I mean all independent films, especially those made for the ultra low budget range or even the just low budget range to a degree, are made through calling in every favor you've ever had, basically, especially
absolutely.
Yeah, there's no way they get done otherwise.
Anywhere you can save a buck.
Yeah.
It's just the math. It's impossible.
And and you're right about agents dealing with producers with notable distribution experience in a very
That's a
different
key,
way.
bro. That's a key.
Yeah, it's
then you're at the level where you can make a couple of calls and like, "Hey, this is my track record. This is what I've done. These are the budget ranges," and people are gonna pick up your phone. They're gonna answer your email, or they're gonna, return that voice message or have that assistant give you a call, right? And and I think you have to have at least three films under your belt to start,
Yeah.
looking for money on your own. Because it's you go through the whole process from the script breakdown. Like the first thing I get hired for is to give a script breakdown, shoot,
Mhm.
and then budget. And then,
Good.
once the EP or one of the producers calls me like, hey man, we got funding, let's start doing payroll. Let's start doing production insurance. As soon as you pay for production insurance, that's when it's real. That's when
That's
the ball's rolling. Like, you're
I hadn't thought of that, but that is a really good benchmark.
no, that's when it
Yeah.
becomes real. Like there's no turning back. Like you're already spending money. The minute you spend your first dollar, it's real. Like,
Yeah.
you're trying to hold it as long as humanly possible. But the first thing you do is production insurance, and then you start, doing, payroll. Call the payroll companies and get your workers' comp insurance and all that good jazz, man. And then
Mhm.
you're good to go. You're good to
Yeah.
go.
No, you're right. One, we mentioned the fees for cast and all of that, and they can be pretty notable. I've seen a lot of those numbers, and they get scary real fast for independent films, especially. But
You gotta negotiate, bro.
oh,
Because
you have to negotiate.
the
There's
agent and
only so far
manager,
you can
they're
negotiate, but you do have to
of
negotiate.
course
Also,
you have to
those,
negotiate. Yeah.
yeah, those faces that you um those faces that are faces to a general audience are often not just
Yeah.
faces to those working in sales and distribution and acquisitions, because
Absolutely.
we actually understand that face thing. But if we know their name, we know that our audience might not, but we do know when they'll recognize a face, mainly because we know what did well in
Copy
our
that. Yeah.
territory. And that's part of why
Mm-hmm.
the localization model is still the best one, in my opinion. I don't think that I think it can make sense to self-distribute for a lot of films in your home territory. Like probably for most of the people listening to this, that would be the US and maybe North America. Um, but you still want to work with a sales agent for international, because
Yeah.
you're just not going to know how to market a horror film to Bulgaria. Whereas it's yeah, it's a very
Yeah, of
different
course.
thing.
Well,
Yeah.
what's the market value in Bulgaria? It could be 5,000, it could be 2,000. I don't know. It's a
Yeah,
good
so
question,
that's
right?
why it's like you just kind
You
of
need
need to know
somebody
a sales
experienced.
agent, and that's why like I think they're going to be the last
Yes.
to go in this pay chain, frankly. But
Mm.
it's it is something where I've had people push back on me because I am very in favor of traditional distribution. I mean, I've done it a lot and I see the different levels of the system and how it works, but I can also see why people don't want to deal with distributors in general. We are the best way I've ever heard it put um was by a former business partner of mine who this was for Production Next in those days, for the like 3 people who have followed me that long. The Hi mom. The
Hi, Jesus, because
um
I've been following you for a good minute, buddy.
yes, no, that was a but the was that AFM is basically a bunch of guys in polyester suits walking around a hotel, getting um buying movies for their hotel chain in Kazakhstan. And
There you
it's
go.
it's not it's an oversimplification, but not as much as you might think. The
Yeah.
most of the time you're not dealing with the people who release Marvel movies in
Yeah. Of
those
course.
major companies. Sometimes you are, When you are, it's because it's a very small territory and there just aren't that many distributors.
Yeah.
But most of the time, that's not the case. So you just kind of have to go in mind thinking that and understand that some of your sales agents' marketing decisions are based on that market. They're not always right. I want to be clear. Sales agents and distributors
Yeah.
mess up marketing a lot. But it is it's another layer of abstraction that you as a filmmaker are probably not thinking about as you're doing this. But that all kind of got on a little bit of a tangent. What I was trying to say is one of the most reliable ways to get money to pay for cast, especially to up the value of the cast, is if you have a producer on board who can pre-sell your film in North America. Because if you can actually get a North American pre-sale, which most of the middle and larger tier distributors are still buying through, not exclusively, but primarily. And a lot of times, especially the bigger players, what they pay for it is that they will pay exactly for cast. They will pay enough for you to get the cast you need to sell it. And that will be your out for North America.
That's very significant, man, because they can cover a good chunk of the total budget. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's like
does go to the cast.
Yeah, you still have to hustle on the back end. But you now have, with your sales agent, you now have a much better cast, which will dramatically increase your sales. Both the number of sales you close overseas that come with an MG, as well as the size of those sales. Like most films only get like 8 to 10 international sales if your sales agent's doing
good,
well,
or decent. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot less. It's not like everybody's selling the world. It's enough of a thing when somebody sells an independent film across the globe, the entire market ecosystem knows that person did that. Because like sells every territory on the list. That's how rare it is. And I've heard of it happening once, and it was a while ago, and it's probably happened a couple times since then, almost certainly. But this was Wonderphil, Phil Gorn of Wonderphil, and he actually sold the entire world for a film, which I don't remember what film that was offhand, but I know Phil, so I know the story. And for the next 2 years, everybody was talking about that. So that's a thing. Anyway, so in order to get the film, we're really talking a lot about completed films here, but you and I both do business plans, decks, and other sort of early stage investment documents and planning for clients. What are some of the things you've learned over doing that would be that are worth sharing here? Like
the filmmaker clients that I have that have been successful, and what I mean by successful, they actually raised the money to shoot their films. They pitched to investors, and they got finance, right? And the key thing that I learned, that somewhere in that it depends on the project, right? Some just a work for hire, right? I do the budget, the shooting schedule, the pitch deck, the business plan, a spec poster, sometimes a mood reel. And if the client can afford it, when I do a pitch deck, and I encourage every filmmaker to do some variation of this, is shoot professional stills for your pitch deck. Grab a couple of actors. If it's a horror film, I'm talking about under $1,000, bro. Like, out of pocket,
Mhm.
paying your photographer, feeding, a couple of actors. If it's a horror, hiring a special effects makeup artist for the day, and just do a whole photo shoot. So when the way that I love referring to my style of pitch decks, I want it to feel like those old school flip books where there's a little animation, like you flip the little book and you see this little cartoon character kind of like doing some kind of little thing.
Yeah.
So when your potential investor, or if you're trying to attract a more experienced producer or an EP, they're gonna like subconsciously look at your pitch deck, and because you have these photos that are mimicking the tone, the style of your screenplay, they can start. Well, obviously they're seeing some of it, right? They're going through the pitch deck, and like they can start kind of like subliminally start seeing it, right? And if the filmmaker can't afford to do an original photo shoot, then we look at super high end stock photos, right?
Hmm.
Because we're in a visual medium, bro. Like, and it really baffles me, and it kind of makes me a little upset when certain filmmakers can't even do the bare minimum of like going that extra mile, whether it's a proof of concept,
Hmm.
mini trailer, a scene of your film, and they're hitting you up for financial resources, and it's a visual medium. Do show me something, dude. I don't care if it's a concept art or a mock poster, or something to show me visually what you're trying to accomplish with this screenplay. So back to the point where I felt that the filmmakers who have successfully raised money, they had that one person. I'm I need to come up with a better term, but I just call it the Rolodex person.
Hmm.
The Rolodex guy. That person that knows everybody, and they're connected to some form of business that's relevant to the script. I'm gonna give you a couple case studies that I some of my people have successfully raised the money, right? And I'll start off with a film called Salvage Yard Shine Boys. It's a blue collar Americana, salt of the earth kind of film. And the EP, who was also the director, he used to be an actor in a very prominent TV show. And when he went to Tennessee, he literally found one of his biggest fans, who happened to be this Rolodex guy who knew everybody in the community. Business, not like also like socially, but also through business, right? And he's the one that set up all these meetings for the EP, who was also the director and an actor. And he flew to Tennessee for 4 days. I think it was 6 days, but like we have 4 days of actual old school pitching. You know what I mean? Like where your investors like right in front of your face. But this Rolodex guy, he set up like 15 meetings throughout those 4 days that we were there. And like when it was all said and done, I think it was like 85K, like check right there, boom, like a total like 5K. And that film total budget was 300K. And then it took him an additional few months to get the rest of the money. And then my other filmmaker client, he had this political drama, uh, and it was at a time where politics was really, really charged. And once again, the people who ended up investing in the film were people who were very, very politically active. You know what I mean? Like they were like that's their life. And to go back to the Americana film, we were just like about 50 miles outside of Nashville. So that whole radius of 50 miles, including Nashville, um, you'll be surprised, dude, how many blue collar, high to mid to high six figure millionaires, plus millionaires, make their money in what people would consider like blue collar work, right?
Oh yeah.
So they have expendable income. They have expendable income to play. Like a lot of them had bars, restaurants outside of the thing that was making them the most money. And for my political film, these were just super high-end millionaires who were just politically charged, right?
Mhm.
So I started seeing that pattern that, in one sense or another, your script is going to tell you who your investors are going to eventually be. And seeing it from that lens, right? And I'm going to give you the perfect example, right? Right now, I'm producing um a paranormal documentary. It's called The Deadly Dogman. Now, the urban myth, whether you believe in the paranormal or not, the urban myth is that, thousands of years ago, UFOs came and they genetically modified our what we consider the werewolf, right? Like not like a real werewolf, like the monster version of a werewolf. And there's this creepy hybrid and they call it Deadly Dogman, right? So me and my partners, I have three partners. We have a joint venture agreement. We all own a third of the thing, right? So we were sitting down like, dude, who's gonna finance this film, right? And to begin with, it's only 150K. And we were just brainstorming, and then it just hit me, dude. It just hit me like really quickly. It's sporting goods audience. And what I mean by sporting goods is people who do hunting, camping, fishing,
Okay.
very outdoorsy. They do, like, if you do just basic research, dude, they spend a lot of money on that, just for that sense of physical adventure, like, whether it's hunting or, camping or fishing, archery. And dude, I hired a PA to do some local research just in Texas.
Hmm.
We're just talking Texas, and Texas is a huge, sporting goods kind of state, right? And right now, I'm looking for is that Rolodex guy, somebody who's already done business with, multiple chains. And we're talking about, you know, straight up millionaires that own small businesses that cater to this community, right? Because what we wanted to do is my special effects makeup artist, who's one of my partners, he owns a couple of acres in the country, right? So what anybody who invests in the film, we want to take them on a paranormal tour, right? Just as a thank you, or just to kind of get their bloods going. Where we're gonna set up, they're gonna know it's fake, and we're not trying to be misleading, but given that sense, basically giving them a haunted house kind of experience, right? Just to kind of encourage them to drop some cash. So, and once again, we go back to the math, right? If I'm trying to raise 150K for this documentary, that means I need 50 people to buy one unit at $3,000. Asking for $3,000, dude, is easy, bro.
3,000 is a hell of
Anybody
a lot easier than I mean, it does become a little
really,
bit of
really
an
easy.
investor relations nightmare. But would you use like WeFunder for that, or would you just do it
No,
on your own? Okay.
just straight. Once again, the audience, like the people who are potentially gonna be
They're
investing in
not
your
going to be on
film,
WeFunder. Yeah,
they
that makes
wouldn't go
sense.
through they wouldn't go through a program like that. They want to see you face to face, shake your hand, and write you the check, or do a direct deposit right there and then, right?
Yeah.
So if we're only asking for 3,000, yeah, $3,000 for 50 units, also consider they also call units points, but my entertainment lawyer always calls it units, so I don't use points anymore, but it's the same
It's
thing. Uh,
units are not, they're slightly different. In this case it would be, I'm not a lawyer, but not legal advice. But
yeah,
in
not
general,
legal.
units would refer to the actual thing that holds the ownership of it. On a film, it would more be
Okay,
points, which is just an allocation of the back end, basically. So, like when you're talking to an actor,
sure. Okay,
you'd
cool.
want to use points. When you're
Mhm.
talking to selling shares of an investment, you'd want to use
Yeah,
yeah, units. But again, not a lawyer, talk to yours. The
sure. Yeah, or your
podcast.
accountant.
But the no, that's really interesting. Have you considered going like the series route instead of the documentary route?
Eventually, we want to use this as a showpiece to do possibly an episodic. Uh, And just a quick note, an investor can buy more than one unit.
Oh,
Just because
entirely.
I'm offering, instead of me trying to find 50 people, there can be a pool of 5 people and each one of them buy 10, and boom, there, you're funded.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and that's one of the things that I learned. It took me a long time because money. Um, I was an actor before I got into production. I majored in acting. And then a friend of mine called me and go, "Hey, dude, I need a PA." And go, "What's a PA?" He goes, "Oh, dude, you just do whatever they tell you." I'm like, "Okay, cool." It was a huge Target commercial, dude. Back then we were millimeter. And guess who the director was, dude?
Go back a second because you stalled out on my end.
Sure. As I mentioned, my first job was on a huge Target commercial,
Mhm.
and the director was Albert Hughes. Albert Hughes is the director of From Hell, from Menace to Society, Book of Eli. And that was the first time that I saw a BlackBerry, bro. Because the second AD goes, "Hey, dude, that's the director. Just follow him and do whatever he tells you." So my first gig was with Albert Hughes on this huge ass Target commercial, and it changed everything, right? Like seeing behind the scenes and stuff like that. So I remember asking, of all the questions I could have asked him, right? "Dude, what is that?" He goes, "Oh, dude, this is a BlackBerry." And I'm like, "Oh, dude." And I became like a huge BlackBerry guy for like 10 years until they couldn't keep up or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, but one
I
of the
had
most
a
important things I've learned, go
I
ahead.
had a Windows phone for a little bit that was very much like
Oh,
a
really?
BlackBerry. It was nice.
I
Uh,
really do miss BlackBerry, but they just couldn't keep up. The most important thing I learned about pitching to investors is they're gonna invest regardless. So why not your film? That same investment can go to Bitcoin, it can go to real estate, opening some restaurant, it could be in timeshares, real estate. So they invest regardless. And that's
mhm.
like that, like it's like a mental shift that you have to kind of like, tell yourself, like, hey, money to them is money. They want to make the money work, right? And then I think it might be too short of a time, but definitely do some research on some of the benefits, some of the tax breaks that some of these investors can get if they invest in film. But once again, talk to your lawyer or your accountant, and
Mhm.
they'll give you the gist on that. And it just comes down to sales, bro.
Yeah.
To
No, I
be
mean, look,
honest, man, it comes down to sales.
it's comes down to sales and having the right team more than anything, I think, because
Absolutely, yeah.
you do have to. Yes,
And the
these
dream
people
team,
do not leave their money stationary. It's never just sitting in a savings account, or even a
exactly.
CD. It just needs to. They need to have someplace to put it where it can make more money, and film is definitely an investment opportunity, but you have to be really, really, really buttoned up because film, like most investments, frankly, lose money. Most films lose money. Most investments
Yeah,
lose
and I
money.
think film, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's but
Huh?
it's a high risk investment. You actually need to,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
can't just approach mom and pop on this. You actually, according to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, you actually need to be dealing with primarily uh high net worth individuals who are also known as accredited investors. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the big thing, is making sure they meet that qualification. At that point, you need to be truthful in everything you're saying, but you can actually talk to them without too much limitation. Now, there are some things that allow you to talk to lower income people, but in
Yeah,
lower income,
unaccredited.
meaning,
Yep.
yeah, unaccredited, um, thanks to the Jobs Act, but it is, or Reg D crowdfunding, which is what WeFunder is, which is equity crowdfunding. But you need to just keep in mind that no matter what, you're probably going to be better if you can get into a community of high net worth individuals who fall into that accredited investor status, just because you're going to be significantly more likely to raise more in a small bite and not be taking a couple $100
Oh
at a
yeah.
time, as well as just being able to talk to people who understand that investment inherently has risks. And
Yeah.
if they just wanted a low risk thing, they'd put everything in an index fund and they wouldn't be seeking investment conversations at all. I have several friends who are in that category who will never, ever, ever give me a money for a film, because all their money's in index funds and they just don't want to think about it, basically. And I have other people who will, but yeah.
Most accountants are
Gonna need you to go back a sec.
falls under what they call an alternative investment, and it's usually 5% of whatever that total net worth is, right? So so that's a good meter as well to calculate. Like if general idea that this guy's worth, net worth is like about 2 million, 5% of that, you're looking at about like 100K, right? So that's the most that they would play with on their alternative investment kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, man, and it's money is like I said, it's a big hurdle because, like I said, I don't come from that that world. It was something that I really had to cultivate and really learn, and try to consume everything like humanly possible, and then like real experience, real life experience. There's nothing like real life experience, right? To get you up to speed and stuff like that. But the money's there, bro. There's money's all there. It's just really making a commitment that if you're not a natural salesperson, you're gonna have to partner with somebody that is, and whether it's an experienced EP producer or preferably somebody, and to go back to that whole Rolodex guy, all of these guys um were natural salespeople that were not in the film industry, real estate, or people like car salesmen do. Like, think of your average car, you're looking at about 20K, right? Or like if it's real estate, you're looking at about 150K to 300K, right? Just for mid-level, I mean, like a decent little house or whatever, right? So those kind of people, when you tell them like, hey, I got units, each unit's going to be between 3,000 to 6,000 or 14,000, those are not numbers that scare them because they're doing every freaking day regardless, right? uh uh and if you're not a natural salesperson and you're trying to approach an executive producer or producer, your strongest weapon is still going to be your screenplay and a really well made pitch deck to open that door. Because I like you being an experienced producer, you just see a script, you see a mood reel, or you see a proof of concept, like, dude, this is a winner. I'm gonna take that risk to continue the station with this this filmmaker, whether it's a director, screenwriter, or like a low level producer that's trying to move up to that next level. You already see the risk because in some form or fashion they've done the legwork, right? They might not be good with the money, like raising money, but you're gonna take that gamble because, like, oh, dude, this is a good project. They proved to me that with very many resources they can present something that's gonna grab my attention.
Yeah, no, that's totally right. For me personally, when I'm vetting a project, I look first at the lookbook they send me, which is normally which is like a deck but more creative. A deck is more for an investor. A lookbook's more for a studio
Exactly.
or EP. Slightly different audience, a lot of the same information. I did a blog series on it. The another one, and then after that, it's generally the team and the package. There's often not much of a package when it starts, when they're approaching me, but the team can make a big difference for me. A lot of times I'm dealing with first time directors, and that's honestly really, really hard. It's
Yeah.
a lot of times your first film, you kind of have to finance yourself somehow because people
Keep it under 75K. It has to be like, if it's your first film, do it under 75K. That's a combination of donations, crowdfunding, credit cards or whatever. But you're gonna be limited. And obviously there's plenty of filmmakers that have worked under that scale that I found some minor success, and it's just the next stepping stone, right, to
Skidamaring's
get
a great example of
to
that.
another. I'll
But yeah,
actually have that as part of my list that I would love to discuss. Either probably not today, but there's 3 films that are giving me hope for theatrical releases for smaller films, dude. Like 3 solid films, and Skinamarink is one of them, man. I'm
did you
very
know that
impressed
I
with what they
signed
did.
that?
Actually, the main actress.
Did you know that I'm actually the one who
No,
did the
I don't
acquisition
think.
deal for that?
I spoke with the main actress on LinkedIn, dude.
Yeah,
She's oh, dude, I can't wait to see it. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm following it really, really like
yeah,
to the T. Nefarious is another one.
yeah,
Probably most likely shot for it done 6 million in the box office. I know it's probably gonna do equally in VOD, and then put whatever licensing agreements they get with exclusive deals that they get. They're gonna do really, really well. The other one was Jesus Revolution. That did really phenomenal in the box office. I thought their budget was a little high, but I'm pretty sure I could have shot it for like half of that, but it
mhm.
wasn't my call. But I know they did really well, and they're gonna do really. But once again, those 2 of those films were from really experienced executive producers that had like a body of work that, and more importantly, they had a loyal fan base that they tapped into again.
Yeah. I mean, really.
I think one. Yeah.
So just to be totally clear here, since I mentioned that I did do the acquisition work on the initial acquisition work on Skinamarink, I want to be very clear in that I credit IFC with how well that film
That
did.
was a
IFC
yeah,
and
yeah.
Shudder. Those two together are really Adam, Emily, and Sam are really the ones who made that work. I want to be clear that I'm not like taking glory on that because it happened right as I was
No,
selling
no, no, no,
Mutiny.
absolutely not. But still,
But it
yeah.
was a I am so happy that that film did so well. Um the but yeah, so I think at that point, we're going to move to the 3 questions I ask all of my guests. And I am going to say
Oh,
the I'm going to give you the first one first, but it often takes a second to think about. So you can answer the first one second and the second one first. It's the offer I
sure.
make to all my guests. So the first one is, what are your top 3 favorite movies as it stands right this second now? They can change in 10 minutes, but
The first
just
one,
vibes where it is.
yeah.
Go ahead.
The first one's gonna be Old Boy, Korean drama
It's a good movie.
by one of my, well, actually my favorite director. The second, there's a film called Bound by Honor, that was shot by a prominent director that I constantly revisit. Through a horror one there. Because it fluctuates by my mood on a daily basis. They keep on rotating. But my third favorite film, visually, there was a film. It was an adaptation of Shakespeare, a Shakespearean play called Titus that was directed by Julie Taymor, and it starred Anthony Hopkins. And it's aesthetically, it just looks freaking just gorgeous, bro. Beautiful, powerful performances. It's just really enthralling kind of film. Um, but I think the film that wanted me to even consider possibly becoming a director or becoming a filmmaker was Darren um Aronofsky's Pie. That changed
Fair.
everything for dude. When I saw that film, I was like, oh wow. I saw the power of cinema, right? Like, and I'm really into some really esoteric kind of stuff. And I finally found somebody that had a similar voice to what got my wheels going, right? So yeah, he's an amazing director.
Nice. Okay, that those were really good picks. Next, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, when what would that advice be, and when would you give it to yourself?
I think I was 23, 24 when I had my first day job. Um, I think I should have I would tell myself cultivate um uh how to feel really, really comfortable in social gatherings. Because I think it's me, my personal persona. I actually wrote a really cool blog about personality types and how that affects us, like when we're trying to raise money, right? You know, some of us are a little bit more introverted, some of us are a little bit more logistical, some of us are social butterflies, some of us are just action, action, action. Like, hey, I want to talk about it, just do it, do it, do it, do it. And if I had to go revisit myself, I would say, dude, you need people to be in film actors, but like that's the flip side. Uh, uh with actors, screenwriters, the artists of our group extremely well. That's where I feel very like I'm not shy, I'm not introverted, like I'm super open, humor comes out. But when it's comes to small talk or like general people, unless I'm already coming in with a plan, like if it's just like that, um, that's something I wish I would have really, really focused on early on. Like I'm obviously doing it now, like the last couple of years, where, but it's not like my strong suits, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, if when you see other producers who are extremely a lot more social, they're the wine and diners. Obviously, they can be way more successful, right? So I have to go back to my reputation, having like really hard work ethic, an impeccable reputation. And I still get a lot of people that, just they might say like, uh, might not have a beer with them, but I trust them to manage the project with this money, so to speak, right? But that's built more out of reputation and stuff like that. But you can't get investors, convince prestigious actors, DPs, sales agents, if you don't, your social emotional awareness, so to speak, right? I wish I really would have focused that early on. Because when looking back, you see all the missed opportunities, bro. Damn, dude, like I had like multiple times I had somebody I could have pitched and they were like, oh wow, you make movies, blah blah blah. Like,
Hmm.
let's talk, send this thing to my thing. But once again, something that I'm definitely working on. But that's something I think I really would have put it like right in my face, like, hey, bro, like open up better, use humor, do whatever to kind of like, charm people or like just to open people up, right? Because we're social animals to begin with, right? Uh, um, and people want to feel cool, especially like film, man. It still has a really cool factor to it, right? Like still a little bit of it's been a little demystified,
Hmm.
because of the digital age, but I still think that there's still a little bit of mystique, when it's done really, really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Um, and that's a good bit of advice. It's very much a relationship business, and being
Hmm.
good at chit chat carries
Yeah.
a lot more weight than you might expect. Um,
Oh, absolutely, bro.
yeah.
Mhm.
So finally, where can people find you, and what are you looking for?
Okay, you can find me on my website, which is www.filmbusinessplan.com. And then you can Google my name, Jesus
Good
Sifuentes,
URL.
and you'll find me. Uh,
Sorry.
and you can find me on IMDb. You can verify my film credits. I have a lot of recommendations on LinkedIn and also testimonial on my website from previous, film clients, and I have some decent names up there too, man. People who've worked in the studio system, people who are working with the network system that just trust me, man. Um, I know what I know, but I'm always trying to like put my ears always to the ground, you
Mm-hmm.
know, trying to capture whatever's going on, man, and trying to give some advice to any film clients that I have, man. And as far as what I'm looking for, bro, film is hard, bro. It's very hard. I don't know what your financial, everybody has a financial success meter, right?
Mm-hmm.
For some young DP guy, dude, if he's making 50K a year, dude, that covers his general expenses, he's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
People, of certain age, I want to hit, 90K, 100K, whatever your financial, where you can live decently and still pursue film, dude, because film requires full immersion, bro. It doesn't want anything less, bro. Like, and what I mean by full immersion, like it has to be part of who you are, whether you're actor, DP, director, sales agent, like it requires your full attention, and some of us still don't make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when like if it's just a general, right, like like hey, um obviously I'm in the service business. But one of the things I can pick up really quickly on is if they have a general respect for the craft. Even if you're inexperienced, right? Like they have a general like respect for the craft of filmmaking and the business of filmmaking, right? Like I don't know what it is. I can kind of pick it up. I can pick up when he's just doing it for not that I'm some holy priest or anything, but like they're just doing it for the wrong reasons, right? They're
Yeah.
very and I just kind of politely just pass, man. Obviously passionate filmmakers, bro. Even if it's your first time, you're a little jaded, but you still got that love for filmmaking, dude. Yeah, man, I'll roll with you, bro. But
No,
it but
that
it's definitely a very challenging.
it is an
If you
obscene
find my sense of
challenging
humor
business.
funny, then it's even better.
That helps a lot. The I like to think I'm funny, but I think my wife disagrees. Um,
Really, I think
uh,
you're pretty funny.
but no, and you're right. And one thing about passion, because it's always kind of been a bee in my bonnet. Um,
Mm.
you never, if you're actually passionate, you should never have to say the words you are passionate.
It comes
That,
out in your voice. That's what I mean. Full
yeah,
immersion. You can tell when somebody's like loves the craft, like whether it's a screenwriter, a DP, an actress, an actor. You just kind of there's something about it you can't fake, bro. Like you can't like this
it
person
comes out
really,
in
even
other
if they're
ways.
like,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
it's totally a thing. Anyway, Jesus, thank you so much for coming on. You are welcome back.
Ben, thank you so much, brother, man. Thank you, sir.
Um,
Appreciate it, brother.
yeah, so and to those of you watching at home or on the go or listening, this has been the Movie Moolah Podcast. I am Ben Yenny. And if you want to get more content like this, you should check out my mailing list, which also comes with a free film business resource packet, which includes a deck template, a free ebook, a free white paper, and a lot of other templates and money saving resources, as well as a monthly content digest sent to you automatically that will help you learn and grow your film career on a easy to manage basis for almost any timeline. Also, while you're here, please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're watching this on, and if you're on YouTube, hit that bell so you know when I drop new podcasts. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you, brothers. Peace.